right. Well, we'll get going. Welcome to the members meeting, and it's a little bit of a downer this time. Uh, no, we're good. We're good. I'm excited that you came. And by the way, we've got brownies here today, and we're gonna all eat them, just like what happened today. All right. Okay. With that said. I really appreciate you coming out tonight, especially I was thinking we need to do members meeting when we know the weather's going to be bad. That way there's only one thing to do, come to the members meeting. But I really appreciate your attendance. What I'd like to do is first open us just in a word of prayer, and I'm going to introduce to you some elders and deacons. So would you bow in prayer with me? Father, thank you so much for being our God, thank you so much for letting us be a part of your church. And, Lord, the privilege that is. And, Lord, we take it serious. It is a weighty thing to be a part of what you're doing here. And so, Lord, I pray that tonight would be honoring to you, that you would help us to celebrate well all that you are doing here and to communicate clearly, and that you would be glorified in all of it. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so wanted to start by introducing to you our elder team. And guys, I just want you to just stand up if you're an elder, and just stand right along here so people can see you. I'm going to just do a quick introduction. All right. So I'll just, if you guys just wave when I say your name, that way we can work through this. So I'll start at the very end. That is Jeff New, all right, Alan Seymour, Rocco Sharaba, John Jones, Jeff Rarica, Mike Norville, Rob Eberly, and Bob Weishauer. All right, we are missing. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got something to cheer for today. Listen, this is almost all of our elders. We've got Dan Lane, who could not make it tonight. He's the only one. Dan is the chairman of our elder board. Also, just FYI, John Jones is our treasurer, and Jeff Rarica is our secretary. And I'm really thankful for all these guys. One of the reasons we do this meeting is because this team feels like this is super important to make sure you guys know who they are and what's going on in the life of the church. And these guys, once again, I always say this, you don't often see these guys up front, but behind the scenes there is so much work going into planning and visioning and making sure this place is running smooth. And it couldn't happen without their leadership. And so, once again, would you just thank them for their leadership? Also, I wanted to introduce you to the deacons. If you're a deacon, would you just stand and then we could look around and make sure we know who the deacons are? All right. So real quick, I'm going to run through, make sure you know these guys too. This is Joe Ramey right here. Tyson Cromines back there. Pete Yonda. Greg Patton. Carl Hemming. Sam Russell. Kevin Faber. All right. Give a round of, oh, sorry, Nick Friedman in the back. Of course, Nick is back there because he's serving, and that's what deacons do. They are tremendous with what they do here. Again, so many things that happen here in the life of the church, like the communion that happened this morning, all behind the scenes, deacons preparing, making sure that's all set, and is such a big key component of running this church. So, with that said, I also wanted to mention this, that as we come to the year end, we are now in nomination season for elders and deacons. So there will be 4 deacons that will be rolling off because you serve 3-year terms as a deacon. And you also serve 3-year term as an elder. So there'll be 3 elders rolling off as well. And so we continually want to build up our leadership. We want to invest in everybody. So we're hoping to see nominations that new guys getting into these roles and serving the church, and also just thanking the guys who have been a part of it as well. So I wanted to do that real quick too. So the elders that are actually going to be rolling off at the end of this calendar year are John Jones, Jeff Rarica, and Rob Eberly. All right, so would you give them just a round of applause for their service? Appreciate you guys. And then see if I can get this right. The deacons that are rolling off, I know, are Tyson Cromines, Pete Yonda, I believe it's Ron Smirzak, who's not here, and Jordan Samsonis. So those four will be rolling off. They've served so faithfully here. Would you give them a round of applause, too? We appreciate you guys. All right. So with that said, I am going to go first, and then you're going to hear from a number of people here tonight, several of our elders, some of our staff, and we're just all going to give some quick updates about what's going on in the life of the church. And I wanted to start with a story. You know, we exist here with to lead families to discover life in Jesus, and that is a great idea. It sounds good, but I love when it actually happens. And so we had this young couple that came into the church about a year ago, and they were an engaged couple, and they said, we're looking for a church to help us get married, essentially. So they knew enough to know we've got to be in the church to get married, but at the same time, they confessed they really didn't have interest in being Christians, weren't really believers. But it was interesting because they're like, we want to go through your premarital. And so we lined them up with premarital mentoring, which, by the way, just so you know, we have a premarital mentoring process. We have trained premarital mentors that actually guide couples through the engagement process. And they got lined up with Mark and Barb Kanabe. And I just said, and if you guys, Mark and Barb here? I don't think they are. If you guys know Mark and Barb, I said, listen, Mark and Barb, I'm not sure they even know Christ or have a relationship with him, but you guys are the perfect people to start leading them and sharing with them because they're just so evangelistic. And so Mark and Barb just did a fantastic job with them, guiding them and leading them, but they just weren't moving. They weren't making a decision. And, that's all God's timing when somebody makes a decision to accept Christ as Savior. But Mark and Barb did a fantastic job. So this couple asked me to do their wedding, and 2 weeks before the wedding, I was doing a sermon on legalism, which was just a month ago or so. And this young lady, whose name is Alicia, she, after the sermon, just bolted up to me. And before I could even know what was going on, she said, "I'm a sinner and I need a Savior." And she just fell into my arms with tears in her eyes and just kind of broke. And it was one of those just amazing God moments where all the work that Mark and Barb had done for all that time and all the investment that has been made by this church, and it just happened. And then a couple days later, I actually met with her fiance, and he was all in. He's like, I'm good. If she's good, I'm good. And it was amazing what God has done. So 2 weeks later, I stood up here and I did their wedding ceremony and was able to speak with confidence that the two of them were putting Christ at the center of their new marriage. Talk about families discovering life in Jesus. What a better way, couldn't think of a better way to start off your marriage. So I wanted to share that with you because God is moving in this church in some really cool ways, and that's not the only way. But I wanted to give you just some encouraging news. We had just 17 new members that just kind of finished membership class on Sunday, and I believe that's right around 80 new members that have jumped in 2023, which is really a great amount of people because members are not just attending this church, but they're coming to say, I want to go deeper. I want to be in community. I want to be on mission. I want to join what God's doing here. And that is a really encouraging thing. We also have some ministries happening right now that I think you should be really encouraged by. There's, of course, our Sunday mornings are going well, and people are coming, and the rooms are full and all of that. But We also have 75 ladies that are doing women's Bible studies in 2 different studies during the week right now, which is amazing. We have 38 couples that are going through Re-Engage, which is a 15-week kind of intensive marriage course. And those are really encouraging things to see people really taking it deeper. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the third service. So we have been talking a lot about adding a third service. And the interesting thing is that the last few months have told us that we think right now, at least for the immediate future, we need to focus a little bit more on balancing out the service than jumping the gun to add a third service. We've leveled out a little bit in the summer, and we haven't seen like a crazy shift back in the fall. The thing that you'll see is if you go to first service, it is really, really full most of the time. If you go to second service, it is not really, really full. There is plenty of space. And so as members, what I would challenge you to do is if you could consider shifting to second service, that would be fantastic. Because then it will start to give us an idea of at what point we will need to add a third service. But again, we are still evaluating, and we're kind of ready at any point to begin to take that step. If we did it at this point, it wouldn't be till the new year, but we will keep you updated. But again, attendance is finicky. So it's hard to tell, but we don't think we need it immediately. We need to balance, though. So if you know somebody that 9:30 or 11 doesn't really matter, say you should try the 11. Somebody said on the way in, they said, I've got a perfect idea. Just the sign outside should just say only 11 o'clock service. Just don't tell them about our 9:30 service. It's brilliant. So next update I wanted to give you is that we have kind of an exciting partnership that we get to be a part of. That there's a counseling ministry called Renew Counseling, and they're out of West Akron. And we have decided to partner with Renew and become one of their sites for counseling, which is a really cool thing because if you know anything about this area, Aurora, immediate Aurora, and really the surrounding areas, there's not a lot of Christian counseling. And so we found ourselves, we're always recommending places that are like really far away for people that are reputable places. So this is a chance to bring some counseling closer. And so there's going to be 2 counselors that actually are going to be here one day a week throughout the week. So Caitlin did a great job of making our nursing mom's room into doubling as a counseling office now. And she did a great job with that. And so we will have counseling here, one of which is Jillian Iannetta, who you may know. All right. So excited for that. All right. Also, we launched our app and our website, and it's brand new. And these are such great tools that I think God uses in a lot of ways. And so, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Denise Stratton Simpson. She is somebody you don't see hardly ever because we outsource with her for all of our design and our website and our app stuff. And she just is doing an awesome job. And so at some point I'm going to get her here so we can thank her. But Denise has built out a brand new website for us and built out an app using Subsplash. And I just want you to know, to take advantage of those things. The website, just so you know, kind of purpose behind things, is geared towards the outsider. So anybody can use it, but it's supposed to be kind of more user-friendly towards somebody who is checking out our church from the outside, because we are in a place now in our world where nobody's going to step foot in here unless they first get on our website. Every time I talk to somebody, they're talking about sermons I gave, but this is the first Sunday they were here. They're checking us out before they ever walk through the doors. And so we want to make sure that our real front door, which is the website, is great as it can be. And Denise has done a great job with that. The app is really a lot more for our people inside here. So if you notice, nobody's going to download the app that is from the outside unless they really know us. So it has great resources in there. And I wanted to point, Virginia put this up on the screen. I wanted to point you to this, that if you click on that button in the upper right-hand corner that's circled, and then you click on notifications, you can actually choose to receive notifications right to your phone. And you can do it for general. So like if you did that, you should have received the notification about the members meeting. What was that? I think yesterday or 2 days ago or something. But you can also choose to get notifications if you have a student in student life or in kids ministry, or what else do we have up there? Or to receive our prayer updates. We're trying to move towards kind of these notifications, which I think will be helpful. All right. Last thing, I want to just by a show of hands, is anybody having trouble or not receiving our Wednesday email? It's going to junk mail. Okay. We are having a serious issue with that right now, and what I've been told by our IT guy that we work with, that we outsource with. He's saying that it's really nothing on our end, that you have to go in and keep marking that not spam or not junk, because even I, unfortunately, was getting it to my junk mail, and it was from me, which was really weird. So constant contact, you really have to go back and do that every time. I had to do it several times. So if you're not getting an email, a couple things I would say. If you're not getting an email from us every Wednesday, then go into your junk or your spam and look for it. Try to mark it not junk or not spam. And if you're not getting it anywhere, then we would like you to reach out to us, and specifically reach out to Clara Mast, who's our administrative assistant, and we will get you on that email list so that you do receive those updates. Those are pretty key updates on a weekly basis. Otherwise, there might be things that you're not in the know on as a member. And those family updates are geared towards our members, mostly. So, all right. With that said, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to invite up Rick Shuping for another exciting update. Come on up, Rick. Real quick, Rick is our administrator here. That means Rick does Rick does so many things behind the scenes and everything that I really cannot do. He is our HR guy. He's our finance guy. He's our building and grounds guy. All the projects that have to do with making sure this place is running is Rick, and I couldn't be more thankful for him. I always tell our staff, he's signing your paychecks, so you've got to be good to this guy. He is an amazing asset to what we do here. And so thank you, Rick, and would you give an update, please?
Certainly. You do lots of things I can't do as well, Todd, so many, many more. Thank you for being here, allowing me to be up here tonight. Todd asked me to give you an update on a project we have going here. Last fall and into the winter, through the winter, the leadership team here began looking at how we could respond to a lot of the opportunities that were coming to us because of the expanded growth and attendance at the church. Wonderful problem. And we partnered with one of the first things that came up in all that was parking. That became pretty obvious if you ever come to the first service, that there was issues with parking. And we've been shuttling people from off-site to bring them in here. And at the 9:30 service, you can see that our parking team has done some real creative things out there with people parking on the grass and down the driveways and wherever they can put them. They're putting cars where they'll fit. But we began looking and partnering with an engineering firm and architectural firm to look at opportunities to respond to the growth that we're experiencing here. And one of the easy solutions, the quick solutions that came up to what we could do with parking was to expand our parking lot to this side over here, to the north side where this driveway comes up in the back that the city uses over here. So we began to put plans together to do that. I approached the city in early spring to talk to them about what it would look like to do that. The catch with doing that is that property over there is part of an easement that this church gave to the city many, many years ago, long before we were Silver Creek. So in talking to them, it was kind of like we were asking, can we have back access rights to an easement that we gave you many, many years ago, and by the way, we want to pave over it. And so there was some pushback, as you can imagine. There were hoops that we had to go through with that. But I'm really happy to say that just a few weeks ago, the city has fully approved our ability to go over there and pave that area to put parking over there. There's a nice grassy patch over there if you look that would make a great parking expansion for us. One of the snafus in going that direction over there, some restrictions they put on is they want that driveway to be a one-way driveway. So the parking that is over there, everybody that parks over there is going to have to exit out that driveway, not out of the front. So to access, you'll have to come through our parking lot, go back by the trash area back there, and then cut down that road because all the parking will be slanted to allow for one-way parking over there. And then when you leave that way, you'll be going out that exit way, and you can only turn right or north on Chillicothe Road. You can't turn left going out of there. So one of the things, just want to plant a seed now, is that if you could give some thought to the fact if that type of a parking scenario would work for you, you'd be a great candidate to go over and park in that area so that you can turn north going out. And all the people that do will be opening up parking spots here then for the first-time attenders and a lot of people that come here that scenario will not work out well for them. So if you'd give some thought to that, that would be really great. We'd appreciate that very much. And I just want to thank the whole team here for the support that they put into that and that we finally pulled this off. The construction will start probably in 2 to 3 weeks. We went out and got different contract bids on that. We found a partner that we've contracted with. And so in 2 to 3 weeks, you'll begin seeing heavy equipment out there and doing it. They know they have to complete it from a Sunday to a Sunday so they don't interfere with our services. So at some point, next couple weeks, during the week, it'll be kind of a disaster zone out there with heavy equipment in here and excavation going on and all that. So I'm thinking of things like women's ministry, sorry Denise, and looking at Band of Brothers and things like that. There'll be a few days in there where probably will be some creative parking going on of our own because of orange cones and things out there to make room for them so they can get that project done for us. So pardon our dust while we do it, but it'll be a great addition for us. We're going to pick up about 24 spots over there, which is a great addition for us. It should help us keep more cars on site here. That's it.
All right, so I want you to know God has incredibly blessed us this year. About 4 months ago, we really had some holes in our staff that we needed to fill. And in the last 4 months, we have hired 5 staff, full-time, part-time, in different areas. The last 2 staff that we've hired were really key positions, and I'm so grateful to the Lord for bringing them to us. And so I wanted you guys to hear from Becca Shepard and Brandon Smith. So Becca, I'll have you start. Come on up. Give a round of applause for Becca.
I thought age before beauty was supposed to go with things like this, but I guess I got. We're both Bengals fans, though, so we stand united, although it was a rough day for us today.
And that's it.
I think we both had some pretty rough days today. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. Me and my husband, Brian, we have transitioned up here again from Florida. Brian was in the Air Force, for those of you who don't know, and so after we got married, we spent a year together in Florida, and I wasn't doing anything besides staying at home with the dog. And so I had a year off from ministry, which was an interesting thing for me because I have been in ministry from out the womb, I feel like. My grandpa was a pastor, and so my grandma stood me up on a pew from the age of about 2 years old, and I was singing literally with a microphone at 2 years old, and it really hasn't changed very much since then. And so just a little bit of my salvation story is that my dad and my mom were divorced when I was pretty young. It was the first divorce in our family. It was just like not a heard of thing. I didn't even know what it was when it happened. And it was pretty rough for me. I gave my heart to Christ at around 9 years old, I think. From what I can remember, I do remember having that moment, but I'm not really sure what the day and time was, to be perfectly honest. But that was a really rough transition for me to go through. And so flash forward, I'm in my teenage years, going through all this, working through my dad not being there, and I just had this moment where I'm like, if my earthly dad is like this, then why would I want another dad, like another father? And I really felt God kind of come to me in that moment and say, I'm not like him, and I'll never be like him, and I'll always be here for you, and I love you. And that was really a realigning moment for me. Flash forward, I decided to go to a Christian college. I really wanted to go to Cedarville, which I think Brandon went to Cedarville. But I was like $4,000 short of where I wanted to be scholarship-wise to go, and so I went to Ohio Christian University, which was so God's plan because I didn't know it at the time, but he was planting seeds for me to meet my husband. But I was going to planning to sing opera. That was what I was going to do full time. And I went to a competition at Capital University, was in a practice room warming up. And I just had this moment again where I was like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was a great competition. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. And I just really felt like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So I prayed a lot coming back to my college. And I decided that I was going to add worship leadership as a degree. So my original degree was music ed K-12. And I did finish that and complete it. But I also added a second degree. And I did worship leadership as well with a concentration in vocal performance. And so, yeah, it was a wild ride trying to get all that done. I had a couple semesters where I was taking like 26 credit hours, which is pretty wild if you know what that means. I had to have it all approved by the dean, and it was a wild ride. But from that, I got to move to Georgia for a little bit and worked at a church there. I helped them kickstart an apprenticeship program for high schoolers to learn about worship, and that was awesome. And then I worked at a church in Winchester, Ohio for 4 years. So I was in the Cincinnati area. Like, if you hear my accent and you're like, man, has she been around Tyson too long? It's not that. It's that I lived in Georgia for a little bit, and that I also lived in Southern Ohio, which is like the Mason-Dixon line. Once you get past Central Ohio, it's a whole new ballpark down there. And so I worked there for 4 years, and then my husband was actually deployed to Qatar when we started talking. That was a total God thing. Would love to tell you that story, but it'd take a little bit more time. And so we actually eloped, which is so not me at all. It's another thing, a God thing. It was just a reason to show that it was totally God. We eloped and tried to see if we could live separated for that last year, and it just was not working. I'm sure many of you know that, being newly married. It was just, some people could do it, and it was not for us. So I resigned at my position in Winchester. I was really upset. I'd bought a really cute house, and now that we're going through all the housing stuff here, it's just, I just dream of that house. I just think of it sometimes. But we sold our house. I moved to Florida, and it's crazy to see how God has worked. I feel like I've hit every corner of Ohio about working at this point, but I'm so excited to be here. And Logan, he came in this morning during rehearsal, and afterwards he said, I just love the way you lead. And I was like, it's not me. It's the people that you have, the people who are up here serving on your platform week in and week out. They are dedicated. They are here first thing in the morning. They are prepared when they come in. They love what they do. They have a heart for worship. And so it's easy for me to lead. And so I just want you to know you have great people. If you get a chance, grab somebody on the media team or on the worship team and just tell them that you love them and that you're thankful for them, because services would not be the same without them. If I were standing up here by myself on a Sunday morning, I can promise you it would not be the same, and you would not be complimenting me after service. So just thank them, and thank you guys so much for being here and praying with us. We did get a house in Streetsboro, so we were praising that that'll finalize. Yeah. Now we got to pray for Brandon and Whitney that they can find a house. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate y'all and being here. I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email. You can get to that from the app. You can click on a little link and it take you right to my email. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Becca. And Brandon, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Smith. It's sort of sounds like a CIA name, so sometimes you hear me go by Brandon Faulkner Smith, and Faulkner's my middle name. So I was born in Dayton, Ohio. So actually, listening to Becca, we have kind of some of the same parallels. Right when I was born, so I'm just going to dive right into how I became a believer and then how I ended up here. Right when I was born, like literally a few months later, my parents got divorced. So I was born into kind of I guess you would call it in some ways, a broken home. And the way that kind of unfolded throughout my childhood was there was 2 more divorces, right? So it ended up being, by the time I was like 15, 16, like I was honestly like a pretty angry kid. And, I was apart from the Lord, but I wasn't doing anything overtly terrible, right? I wasn't going around and doing crazy things, but I was an athlete. Loved sports. I played football. I played basketball, the whole story, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, got to a point where a family member of mine who was a believer asked to take me to Skyline Chili, of all places. So I know that's controversial. If you don't like Skyline, that's fine. But right in the middle of a Skyline Chili, he shared the gospel with me. And he did it like very, very straightforwardly. Do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God who came into the world. I think I believe that. He's like, okay, well, do you believe that he lived a perfect life? Yeah, I think I believe that. Do you believe that then he went to the cross and he took your punishment, the place that you deserve, because you're not perfect, right? You don't follow God's law. And I was like, yeah, I think I believe all of that stuff. And he's like, well, why don't you live like it? And I kind of thought about that for about a week. And I had some friends who were Christians that I knew from school. I went to like a big public school down there called Miamisburg High School. And I said, hey, I need to go to church this weekend. And they're like, what? Well, okay, whatever, we'll take you to church. So I went to church, and the preacher was preaching on Matthew 28, 19, or 18 through 20, the Great Commission. All authority in heaven has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations. And I can remember sitting there in the service like, what is this guy talking about? Like, I had no idea what he was talking about. And then it hit me at the end of the service. The reason I don't know what he's talking about is because I'm not a disciple. So how can I make disciples when I myself am not a disciple? So that day, I started weeping over my sin. And my friends were now really like, what has gotten into Brandon? This is crazy. I was about 17. So I repented right then and there and turned to Christ. And I was like really, really raw. I mean, anybody who's like came to faith from a background where you didn't really have that growing up as a child, like it was like a really, really, really raw faith. And I had some very blatantly obvious sin issues to work through. But thankfully, the Lord made it to where I was able to go to Cedarville University not long after that, and that was really a place where I got discipled really well, and ended up getting involved in ministry. Ended up meeting some guys who were pastors here in the Cleveland area at a church called Parkside. So some of y'all, if you've ever been at Parkside, you would have seen me there. I ended up going and working there for 8 years. I was a youth pastor. I was an associate pastor. And during that time, I also went ahead and I got my master's degree. So I have an MDiv from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. And for a while, I actually left church ministry, and I was working with churches with their technology. Did that for about 2.5 years for a company called PushPay. And really so during that time, by the way, met my wife, Whitney, who's sitting over here. And Whitney's from Aurora originally, which is super cool. And Whitney and I have a 10-month-old son named Nolan. So as all this is going on, we were trying to pursue my wife's career. She's a nurse practitioner, and she was working in cardiology. So we went down to Cincinnati to help pursue the next step in that career for her. And over the last 2.5 years, we ended up having our son Nolan, who's 10 months old, and we sensed, the Lord really does want us in church ministry. And so we started looking, like, where would he have us? We started praying about a year ago, where would he have us and what would he have us do? And then someone actually told me, hey, I think there's going to be an opening at Silver Creek Church in Aurora, which is Whitney's hometown. And I was like, oh man, I know that church, and I know some of the people at that church, and I know the preaching of that church and like the like-mindedness of that church. And I started getting really, really excited. And so I ended up just applying. Todd and I actually met. We discussed the position. And really for me, coming here has everything to do with the mission of for the family, for the neighborhood, for the world. That's what I'm all about. That's what Todd's all about. That's what the staff here is all about. That's what, as long as I'm here, that's what I will promise to you all. That's what I'm going to be all about, is the Word of God and helping to push the Word of God into families, because by the gospel, that's how families are redeemed. And as families are redeemed, the neighborhood is redeemed. And as the neighborhood's redeemed, the world gets redeemed, right? So that's my mission. That's why I'm here. We are super excited to help really in any way that the church would have for us to help. We're pretty empty-handed and open-handed, just saying, Lord, use us in whatever way that you would. So that's why we're here. We'd love to meet you at the meet and greet afterwards, or just, as Becca said, send me an email. I'm not on the website yet, but we'll get that fixed. And over time, just introduce yourself. We'd love to meet you all. So.
Thanks to both of you. You guys are both answers to prayer for us, for me personally. And so thank you for being here. When Brandon got here on Monday, I was like, we are whole now. So All right. Let me pass it along now to our financial update. And so, John Jones, welcome up our treasurer, John Jones.
Well, thank you, Todd. And you've already heard the exciting update. So, but what I'd like to do also is invite Jeff New to join me up here. Todd mentioned this. I'm outgoing. Jeff will be our treasurer as of next year. And so we thought we'd bring him up here. That's right. By the way, I think he needs to just shave the rest of this off because we gotta be able to pass the baton. All right. So if you wouldn't mind, these will be a really quick update about the financial health of the church, which, spoiler alert, is really, really strong, continues to be strong thanks to your faithful giving. What you'll notice up here on the next slide is our giving over the last 3 years. And you can see last year in 2022 compared to 2021, we had tremendous growth in giving. So the bullet point there, 36% for that full year, calendar year. 2023 so far through August, today's October 1st, so I think Rick will probably have numbers for us in another week or two here. But through August, we're up about 14% in giving. You can see December is our largest month of the year. Last year, giving in December was fantastic, but we're in really good shape. We continue to do well. And just for point of comparison, we also show fiscal year results. We run on a July to June calendar, and that December is really the reason why we do that, because it's such a large month that most churches run on a pattern like that, so that they're not waiting to see how that last month of the year goes to know whether or not they've been able to meet their budget and giving projections. So last year, full fiscal year, we were up again very strongly. This year, things have slowed down a bit. We're only 2 months into this fiscal year, so we have our July and August numbers so far, but we're doing really well. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just show, so giving really healthy. If I show our budget performance, actual expenses so far versus budget, we're coming in just under budget for the year, and it's only, again, 2 months in. We finished really strongly last year, about $20,000 under budget for the full year, and we're already off to a good start again this year. You can see our cash reserve at the bottom, slightly under $800,000, and we do have a loan for the building and the property here, which is $770,000 right now. So we're in really good shape. We have the majority of that cash reserve invested right now in a local money market fund, and so we're generating interest every month on the majority of that, and I think doing really, really well. So we'll continue doing these updates every 6 months. Thank you for your faithful giving. Everything's going really well. We'll be outside afterwards if you have any detailed questions and would like any more specific updates, but thank you.
All right. We every summer now, the elders have started a tradition where we go away and we do kind of an annual planning retreat, and we sit and kind of evaluate the vision and the progress of what we're doing here and how we're fulfilling the vision that we feel like God's given us. And so we thought we want to give you a little insight and overview into some of the things that came out of that retreat. And so, Rocco, is that you? Rocco and Jeff, come on up. They're going to give that to you. Thanks, guys.
Well, the first thing I learned is I'm too old. I shouldn't be sharing a bunk bed with our pastor at the next retreat. So that's something I'll do differently moving forward. But no, we went away in July and we got some time to plan. And so any good organization has a vision, right? We're no different. So we come together, we're talking about what are our goals, what are our plans, and what's in line with our mission of what we're going to be doing for the neighborhood, for our families, and for the world. Next slide. So when we got together, we talked about our goals and our focus. So, I could read this to you, but basically, we gathered and we reflected as what does God want us to do? What will he have us do in this next year, looking the year ahead, looking 5 years out, looking 10 years out? So when we did that, we basically come together and we think about what God has done, who he's brought here, and who is yet to come. So it's planning for those who are still yet to come as well. And our goals are that God put on our hearts reflect our motives like we talked about, and what our vision is. Then we want to talk about different markers of how we're going to know we're meeting those goals, or are we growing, are we successful, are we stagnant, and then how to keep Jesus central in our relationships and all that we do. So that's kind of the thought process that goes in, and then we get into like more nitty-gritty along the way.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if you're not familiar, I'm the current secretary. I think that was mentioned earlier. Rocco is actually going to be taking over as secretary going into.
And I'm the worst typer. It's the funniest thing, but we'll get there. My wife will clean up my notes on Sunday nights.
Yeah. And so you heard about the annual meeting. In our monthly meetings, we're really focused on the operations on a day-to-day basis. And so the annual meeting allows us to take a step back and think bigger. And so if we go to the next slide, this is just really some of the focuses that we walked away from the meeting. So we look at our goals. Our goals all are around Jesus-rooted families, Jesus-saturated neighborhoods, Jesus-focused giving, and Jesus-centered church plants. So if you've been with us for a while and you've seen the website, you know that we have goals that are aligned with each of these areas. And so as an elder board, when we gathered, we wanted to evaluate what were the priorities or focuses going into the next year and what God has put on our hearts, as Rocco had mentioned. And so when we talk about Jesus-rooted families, it's about investing into our community groups. That's why it's so grateful to have Brandon here, because community groups is really important to our church. If you haven't been a part of a community group, love to make sure that you are a part of a community group, because it's a body that you can live your daily life with. And so we want to be a church where it's a regular rhythm of our church body to be a part of community groups. The next one is there that we really want to take care of the kids that walk into this building every Sunday, that they have the emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being taken care of. And that, I have my 3 kids. I have a 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old that I put back into the kids ministry every single not every single, my daughter tends to fight us, but mostly every single Sunday. And so, we are heavily invested in making sure that every child is taken care of in all 3 of those areas. And then something that you don't see on a Sunday is really our students ministry, and that's something that Dom is going to be talking about later. But we want to make sure that we're a church that is in the community, being able to make sure all students are discipled regularly, they have an opportunity to be discipled regularly. And so Dom and Logan are doing some great things. And so we talk about the focus that God has for Aurora, but it's also about the surrounding communities of Twinsburg, Manaway, Streetsboro, and then the Chagrin Falls and Bainbridge, Kenston areas. And so that gets into the next one is our community groups are a means by us in getting involved in neighborhoods. And so when you look at the neighborhoods just in Aurora, there's about 55 neighborhoods, believe it or not, in Aurora. And I think we only have community groups representing about 20 of those neighborhoods. And we really want to get more folks in those neighborhoods and then expand to the other neighborhoods. And through that, we can do that through community groups. And so we want our community groups to be caring for one another, spiritually growing in community, and then also serving. And so there's a variety of things, and you saw the new trailer that we have out there as well. So utilizing those assets to be growing and being in the neighborhood. And the last one for Jesus-saturated neighborhoods is to have a church body which is representative of the communities in which we serve. We want to reach and meet all people of the communities that are in the area. And so we want this to be a place where people feel welcomed and known. And so it's just part of that is then a good measure of people being welcomed and known here is when we are representative of the community, the people that are in the communities and the surrounding communities as well. The next one was Jesus-focused giving. You know that we have a GLOW ministry here, and that GLOW ministry is all focused about what can we do to be giving to local and global ministries, and that is going to continue to be a focus for us, and we want to be a part of ministries that are all about building strong families, which is aligned with our values here as a church. And then the last one is the church plant. This is something that we don't talk about, but it's one of the items that we put out there in 10 years to have an opportunity to plant a church. And with the blessing that God has provided us financially, we're very much so at a point where we can start talking more seriously about that, about what God would have plans for that. And so we are positioning ourselves so that we can be really considering what it would entail to plant a church and things of that nature. Now, that's still very far into the future, but we're being very diligent in making sure that we are going to be financially ready if and when God has that for us, that we can go ahead and pursue that. And so we're having conversations about what that would be in the distant future, but we're still talking
We might
about
think it's far in the future, but we'll see what God has in mind,
That's
right?
very true.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we will be outside if you have any questions about any of these topics. that
You
we
can
talked
ask
about.
Rocco all the questions for me. He's here tonight.
Yeah,
so.
young Rocco.
That's Rocco Jr. So he's talking. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right. We have just a couple more updates, and we have 2 staff updates I want to give. So, Dom, you can make your way up here. I see you back there. Here at this church, we are all about, like we said, building the family. And so the next generation ministries are ministries that are so important to us. And Dom's doing a great job leading the student ministry. And so I'm going to have him start. And then as soon as he's done, you can just pass it off to Caitlin, who's our kids ministry director, as well as our ministry operations director. So give it up for Dom.
Thank you. So Todd was my youth pastor. Just a cool connection there. That moment transported me back to like Edge. Todd bringing me up to the stage. But good evening. If we haven't met yet, my name is Dominic. I serve on staff as one of the pastors overseeing Student Life, which is our student ministry for middle and high school. I also am involved with our hospitality team, so you might see me kind of doing a few things. But primarily tonight, I want to talk to you just about what God's doing in the life of our students, not just in this building, but also in this area. And that's something really that's a part of our vision for student ministry. We don't want to just serve the kids who show up here. We also want to serve the kids who would never show up here, because we think God's heart is for both the people who are taking steps towards him, and also his heart's for the kids who are taking steps away from him. So I have a few things just to let you know that are things to celebrate, but also to pray for. The first thing is, since we kicked off our fall semester, so we've just had 2 months that we've been at it, we've had 151 students individually, those are individual students, show up to a Student Life event. So that's something that we're really excited for. We've been praying, hey, Lord, we believe the harvest is plentiful. Give us workers, because we want to work that harvest. And he is providing a harvest of people who are eager to get to know him and to step into community. We run kind of 2 different types of events. We have connecting events, which is where we really seek to invite people in to experience not only a connection to community, but a connection to the hope of Christ. And so if you were here for a members meeting, you might have seen we did Color Clash out on the front lawn, and you saw 96 middle and high schoolers throwing paint on each other. That's a connecting event, and those are some of the things that really draw in a lot of kids who are curious about who Jesus is. I remember 2 middle school guys walking into the front doors of Silver Creek that night. Both are like, we've never been to church ever. And they were like, it's really different. Like, it's a cooler building than we thought. It's not as small as we thought it'd be. And like, and you guys are different than we thought you would be, in the sense of all these stereotypes, all these walls are coming down. They really got a picture of Jesus that night. We also do discipleship. So I told you 151 kids have come to an event, but on a regular basis, like Jeff was saying, we've got anywhere between 40 and 50 kids weekly diving into Bible study with us and growing in their faith. And our hope is to really invest in the few for the sake of the many. Right? We believe that's what we see Jesus do with 12, and then he deploys them, and that's kind of our hope, is to really draw in those who want to grow in their faith and then help them launch into this life, this mission that Jesus calls them into with us. We have an amazing leader team that makes this all possible. Some of them are in the room right now. We have a middle school team of adults who are raising up the next generation. We have a high school team of adults doing that. And they make our ministry possible, because our mission is to have a leader in the life of every kid we can. Because we believe that transformation happens up close and personally. One thing I just want to ask you to pray for tonight is that God would raise up more leaders. Again, our goal is to get a leader in the life of every kid that we can. And so pray with us. We see the harvest is plentiful. We also hear Jesus say the workers are few. And so we're constantly praying for more workers. And so if you would join us in that prayer, specifically if you are a lady interested in investing in high school girls, we would love to talk to you. That's a need that we have. But yeah, student life, amazing things happen in there. If you want to get involved and you're like, hey, I can't be a leader, that's a big time commitment, and I'm awkward around students, don't worry. We have other opportunities to be involved. We have partners and we have sponsors who are able to show up and provide food and just to be in the loop on what to pray for. So guys, thank you for your attention. Thank you for being a part of this church. Thanks for loving the next generation really well. All right, let's give it up for Caitlin Ramey. Woo!
Well, good evening, everyone. Hard not to be encouraged, right, about all that is happening here at this church. And you guys are a big, big part of that. Like Todd said, I am the Director of Ministry Operations. I won't go into all of what that entails, but one really important thing I was praying about, how could I really, in a quick snapshot, give you a little bit about what that means. Events are a big part of what we do here, leading families to discover life in Jesus. They're important. They're important to every single ministry, and everybody either plans their own ministry events or we collaboratively come together. And I get to see the events start in the very infancy stage, from just brainstorming with the staff or different ministry teams or leaders like you out in the room, to the very end where we execute those out. And if you know, you'll hear us, we've talked a lot about our map, and a lot of our events either fall to the left side of our map, or we're going out into the community and we're going to go and be, or our events are designed to have them come and see, which is also on the left side of our map, or they're on the right side where we're diving into the kids here, or discipling, or women's Bible studies, and we're just building into each of you and your own leadership. And so a lot of that planning happens in what we do here. And all of you, I look around this room, and all of you, I've seen you at events. You're either helping set up, you're helping tear down, you're a part of the event. So it's a really big investment from all of you. But one event that really stuck out to me this year as we planned 2023, and I think you can all agree 2023 has been a full year, and God has been really good, and he's been faithful in what he's doing. So our outdoor church service is one that really popped into my head as just something that we got to go and do, and the Aurora schools were gracious and opened their field to us, and we went, and it's been a lovely partnership, and we went and we held services there. And I remember last year, after we had our first outdoor service, the staff team, we all came together and we said, wow, that was really great. That was such a great event. But how do we make it better? Like, how do we do this better? How do we reach more people? How do we get the gospel out into the community? And we really just put some ideas down, and we accomplished that. And we had over 600 people come in attendance to that, just that one service. And we opted to have it at night because we learned from the previous year, the weather and how warm it was. And we really discussed that. How would that impact? It didn't impact it in a negative way. People came, and it was a really wonderful time. And we always hope when we do these events that people will, feel loved, known, and seen. And just a couple weeks ago, we had a family come and check in with their kids. And we always, either they'll offer to us, how they've found out about the church, or we'll ask. And they said, oh, we attended your outdoor service, and we wanted to come and check the church out. And, that was almost 2 months ago. So God's working, and he's moving in people's lives. And so maybe we don't immediately see them return back to the church, but they eventually do come if God is leading them here. And so that's just a part of what we get to do here, and you guys are a big part of that. So thank you for all that you do to make this place a loving place. The doors are always open, and we're family. And I think people feel that when they come here, and they know that when they walk through that door, and they know God is here. So that's one plan, part of my planning. I will tell you that we are busy getting ready to plan 2024, so you could be praying for all of us, ministry leaders, staff team, and elders, and just all of you as we look ahead to 2024 to see what God wants to do, that we would be obedient in those things here at Silver Creek Church. Kids ministry. It's a big heart of mine here. And I'm going to have our kids team stand up if they're here. I see Sarah Britton. Is Taylor in here? Okay, so Taylor is on site, but this is our kids team. And I just have to tell you, Sarah is our early childhood coordinator. She also writes our curriculum. And I just have to give her a big shout out because the book of Judges is one for the kids that we've had to do a little bit of crafting with, but they've been doing an amazing, amazing job with that. And then Taylor is our elementary coordinator. She also is really passionate about discipling kids and our 4th and 5th grade ministry. And both these ladies are going on maternity leave, so they'll be going soon. And God has been faithful, so I didn't panic too bad. God's been faithful in bringing us some people who are going to step in and fill that gap while they're away. And so we're really grateful to Michelle Chapdelaine and Nicole Coy, who have stepped up to help and assist in writing curriculum and doing some other leadership things. And then Chris Canonico, who is our intern here, he's also going to step in as a staff member and give some staff leadership into the kids ministry as well. A couple things just to highlight, some real wins, and then some things that we're planning vision-wise and looking ahead in 2024 for kids. Fall Fest, we just got done with our 2nd year of Fall Fest, and I see a lot of you out here who were a part of that event, whether you gave generously to the event or you gave of your time or both. We are very grateful to you. We had over 400 families attend. We met a lot of great people who just don't even come here. And they stopped, they were either walking the park at Sunny Lake, or they came because they heard about it or just saw something where we promoted it. And Diane Barbin, she was at our welcome desk. She just met amazing people, and she has a lot of wonderful stories, but it only reinforces why we do Family Fall Fest. We want to build the family out in the community, and we want Jesus-saturated neighborhoods, and that's why we go, because we just want them to know we want their families to have something to do that doesn't cost them a lot of money, and they get to come and enjoy, and we get to love on them and show them Jesus while they're with us. So it was just a really wonderful event, so thank you to all of you who helped make that possible. A couple things coming up in 2024 for us and kids that you can be praying for. We have begun a conversation with the Aurora elementary schools, and I'm really excited about that. I had a great phone call conversation with a couple of the counselors on site, and they are excited to partner with us. And so the kids team, we've put together some ideas, and now we're going to go into step 2 to present those ideas, just to see how we can love on the kids and the teachers in the Aurora schools. So be praying for that. And then our 4th and 5th grade ministry, we are working to expand that. The last couple months, we have kind of incorporated that, really want to give them their own experience within kids ministry, because they're starting to want to have their own space and do their own thing, yet still like some of the fun things, but they don't want to, and they're starting to make that break into student life. And so we really want to come alongside them and love them well. And so we're going to be adding some things to that ministry. So you'll be seeing some of that in the months ahead. So those are my updates for kids. Thank you.
You can't slow her down. She's got so much energy. All right, so thank you to Caitlin. Thank you to Dom. Also, obviously, you met our new staff, Brandon. You met Becca and Rick and myself, and then you also just met Sarah. But we have a couple other staff that I don't want to leave here without making sure you know who they are. So Denise Britton, would you stand, Denise? So Denise is yep. Denise is our another really key staff member that we just hired just a couple months ago, and she is our part-time women's ministry director. And I say part-time just to go easy on her because she's not full-time, but she's doing a fantastic job leading a women's ministry. We're so grateful for her. And then Clara Mast is in the back. Would you stand, Clara? Again, Clara is just a couple months, 3 months, I think, into her job here as administrative assistant, and she's just crushing it. She is handling so many details, and we're just so thankful for her. I got a big head nod from Tyson back there, so big amen. All right. I believe have I covered all the staff in the room? Chris Watroba. My bad, Chris. So give it up for Chris. So Chris is our facilities director, and he's also part-time. Chris has a full-time job. He's another guy that you just can't slow down. And he comes and he really takes care of our building so well. For anything from painting to, making sure things are running, the repairs are happening. And man, we're so grateful for Chris. He actually, the first time he got here, he came in and he's like, I came here when nobody was here because I wanted to hear the building breathe. I was like, you are the perfect guy for this job. I don't even know what that means, but I'm so thankful for you. So Chris is doing an amazing job, and I think I've covered it. We have one last update, and then we're going to get you some dessert. And the last update just has to do with letting you know a little bit of what's behind the scenes for safety here on Sunday mornings. And so would you welcome up Mike Norville?
Thank you, Pastor Todd. I was curious, bless you, in the whole agenda, Todd decides I'm last between you guys and dessert. I'm not taking that personally that you look at me and go, Michael, get us to dessert quick. But I will. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about safety. The great news, and God has blessed us, we haven't had to talk a lot about safety, right? Every single Sunday we come in here and we're all safe. First thing I want to do is, Mr. Cromines, can you stand up? I think most people know Tyson. Tyson leads our safety group. I think there's a couple people that are here that are on the safety team, if you wouldn't mind standing up. Sam's here. Okay. Here's the hope. You never have to see them again, right? The hope is that we never have to go into any of those issues. However, as Jeff talked about, safety of our kids is one of the most important things, right? Center of the family, and that's a big part of that. So we have created and still have, we've been running this for quite a while, ever since we've been a church. We have an 8-page document of every step that needs to take place if we have a fire alarm, if we have a medical issue, if we have severe weather, or if we have somebody disruptive that enters the building. So we just wanted to tell you that process real quick. As a parent, one of the things we want you to feel comfortable with is we've got your kids safe, okay? If the fire alarm goes off,